And good afternoon, Molly Fisk. So happy to see you.
And you. Thank you.
So you have some exciting news that is timely, eternal, what tells us about what's to come.
All right. So you know what season it is because you live in this season. It's fire season. And I got a grant, a big grant, when I was Poet Laureate of Nevada County to do something that would be meaningful for things our local citizens were concerned with, and also that would bring in quote unquote youth, kids. I put my thinking cap on and I had a lot of poet teachers from California poets in the schools go into schools. And Nevada County is so small that I decided to just take over the whole state. And we don't have a California State Poet Laureate. So I just muscled in. And I had teachers going all over the state helping kids write poems about climate change was the first way we described it. But during the year that I did this work, it turned into climate crisis. That's my cat, Sid, who's looking at this and wondering why I'm talking to something that isn't there.
Hello, Sid.
We put together an anthology of poems about climate crisis, wildfire, and flooding called California Fire and Water. This came out at the end of March, and I had 20 readings planned all over the state in person, because back then we were doing things in person. And they all got canceled at once. Which was hard. But now we have all learned a little more about living with the pandemic and doing things virtually. And so the book is being launched now with 4 different events that I'll tell you about in a second.
But can you give us a taste of what is in the book?
Sure. Let's start with a poem. The book is children's poems from those teaching events and also adult poems. This is called Ember of the Sun by Aislinn Yuen, and she's a 3rd grader at Francis Scott Key Elementary in San Francisco. Ember of the Sun. I am the basket made of bear grass in the northern lights. I am the bowl made of spruce roots at night. I am the orange fire that burns through the maple forest. I am the forest of tricks. I am the beads made of the embers of the sun.
Thank you for that. Yeah. The beads made of the embers of the sun. Wow. Now you will have your 4 events, which I'm going to assume will be very much like this one. It will be virtual. So when the first one is going to be the weekend after the election, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So I hope that people will be done either celebrating or picking themselves up off the floor, depending. And it's sponsored by the Nevada County Library. It's their author showcase event, and I'll be virtually reading and talking about the book and how to make anthologies, how to edit them, how to get them produced. November 7th, noon to 1. And you can contact the Nevada County Library for more information. The second one is November 10th, and that is sponsored by Poetry Center San Jose. And that's going to be a reading with 20 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I've gotten together with another anthology called Fire and Rain, the Eco-Poetry of California. And we're doing 2 readings, one for our Northern California contributors and one for our Southern. So November 10th at 7 p.m. is the one for the Northern California readers. And November 22nd, which is a Sunday at 4 p.m. is the one for the Southern California readers. And then I'm doing a reading only from this book with 25 of the contributors, sponsored by the San Francisco Public Library. And that's on December 10th at 6 p.m.
And so you're going to have 20 of the contributors. That's pretty amazing to get 20 people, even virtually, together for this reading. But if we don't want to wait until then, where can we find the book right now? Where can I find it right now?
Right this minute, you can find it locally at the bookseller on Mill Street, which is thebookseller.biz if you're out of town and want to order it online. It's available at Harmony Books at the bottom of Commercial Street in Nevada City. The Nevada City SPD also carries it, and they do quite a nice brisk business of selling it next to the magazines.
That's and then of course I'm hoping that if people go to mollyfisk.com, they can also find it there.
They can find it there, and they can find it at powellsbooks.com. And I think it's called indiebooks.com.
Indie Books, yes. Or you can order through your local bookstore, and they will fulfill the order. So that the local bookstores will remain with us, which is very. We want them,
yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, also all the proceeds from the book, they go towards getting more copies in the hands of the public, to donating them to libraries and schools and prison libraries, right?
Not officially all the proceeds, but most of them. Because some of the proceeds go to our local Nisenan tribe through their California Heritage Indigenous Research Project.
And Chirp.
Chirp, yes. But otherwise, I'm putting the proceeds back into producing more of the books and sending them to prison and school and public libraries in California.
Which is great, because we all need to learn more about fire and about living in the pyrocene and what it does to us and what it will do to us and future generations.
People have said, oh no, I don't want to read a book about fire poems. This is going to be too depressing. And so I want to say just a brief minute. It's really interesting how all kinds of art, but in particular these days, poetry, can help you feel things more deeply or complete feeling them. If you're in a sort of hamster wheel of distress, a poem can take you out of that place and help you, give you some comfort or some solace, help you relax. Some of these poems are totally heartbreaking, and some of them are interesting. People have recovered from things. People have started over. People have learned things. So it's not a book to be afraid of. It's a book to flip through and see what you find that might be helpful. And just to remind us that there are terrible, disastrous things going on right now. And also there's all this recovery and there's all this change. Many, many kinds of positive things are happening. Somebody I know calls poets and writers and all kinds of artists second responders. And I kind of like that, where the first responders are going to save your life and stop the fires and in general keep everybody going. But the second responders are going to be a place where all the information and the feelings get processed. And that's a valuable thing in this world. It's a valuable thing to be able to do, and it's valuable to be able to read or see or benefit from in some way. Sid, don't you agree?
Well, Sid is also part of the second responders, because Sid, like all cats, provides the necessary distraction and reminds us that, hey, even if there is a fire, and even if we do important things, there are more important things, and there are things that endure, like Sid. And you know, the roaring of a fire coming towards you, it's like a freight train. But the purr of a cat is so much better, so much better.
Sid is 22, and he was with his 3 cohabitators here they were all evacuated by me in cat boxes for the Jones fire. So he's had his experience of being around wildfire, although I don't think he knew that was what was happening.
He was just probably very upset that his routine and his universe was disturbed because, after all, and aren't we all? Aren't we all a little bit like Sid? So
Yeah.
that's again, that's what we all need. Your book and your anthology, and thank you so much for pulling it all together, getting it published, and still keeping at it, even in times of COVID. And as we record this interview, we are again under a red flag warning with possible power outages, with fire danger extremely high. So thanks for taking the time, and everybody read a book, read this book, and be safe. Thank you, Molly.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pascal. Thank you, Eubanette, for taking care of us in fire season and every season.